Beneath the crowded streets of New York City lies a world the public was never meant to see. A labyrinth of sealed tunnels, forgotten chambers, and vaults buried under a century of dust, where gold, secrets, and government power once converged. Most New Yorkers walk above it every day, never realizing that just below their feet lies one of America's deepest mysteries. This is the story of the secret vaults beneath New York. In 1789, when George Washington took his first presidential oath in New York City, the young republic was already preparing for something the public knew nothing about: a hidden network to secure the nation's wealth, archives, and military assets. Underneath what is now Lower Manhattan, engineers and military planners began constructing chambers designed to withstand war, fire, or invasion. At first, it was practical, storage for gold and vital records. But as decades passed, those vaults took on another purpose: secrecy. By the mid-1800s, Wall Street's banks had extended their vault systems so deep they began to intersect, tunnels linking private banks, government facilities, and, allegedly, even the old U.S. Sub-Treasury building itself. Maps from that era show levels of infrastructure below ground that no longer appear on public blueprints. Officially, they collapsed or were sealed. Unofficially, they simply disappeared from the record. When the Federal Reserve Bank of New York was built in 1924, it contained something unparalleled in history: a vault 80 feet below street level, resting directly on Manhattan's bedrock. Within those granite walls sits the world's largest known monetary gold reserve, over 6,000 tons of bullion, stored for nations around the globe. Visitors on public tours see a fraction of it. But below that visible vault, former contractors have whispered of another level: a service tunnel that was abruptly sealed during construction. The reason? National security. Declassified blueprints from the 1930s confirm at least one unexplained corridor extending toward the East River, a corridor that was ordered filled with concrete after World War II. No official explanation was ever released. During World War II, New York was a hub for Allied intelligence. The newly formed OSS, precursor to the CIA, operated safe houses and radio rooms hidden in ordinary office buildings. Beneath one of them, at 44 Wall Street, a freight elevator once descended to what appeared to be a storage area. Recently uncovered photographs show a reinforced steel door labeled only Sub-Level D. Behind it, no records, no access logs, and no surviving construction permits. Some historians believe it connected to a wartime communications relay that ran under the East River to Brooklyn Navy Yard, a secret still protected under federal classification.
When New York began building its first subway in 1904, engineers discovered pre-existing brick tunnels whose purpose they couldn't explain. Instead of documenting them, most were sealed. A few decades later, journalist Joseph Brennan claimed to have entered one of these forgotten tunnels beneath City Hall and found rows of rusted vault doors and a smell of oil and dust, like a ship's engine room underground. He published one article. Within weeks, his paper retracted it, citing errors in sourcing. Brennan disappeared from journalism soon after. In the early 2000s, utility workers repairing fiber optic lines near Fulton Street accidentally broke through a concrete barrier and found a 19th-century staircase descending into blackness. City officials quickly sealed the opening, labeling it a structural hazard. Workers were told never to speak of it, but one man later described, anonymously, what he saw: a tunnel big enough for trucks going north and it wasn't on any map. Today, more than 450 miles of underground passages snake beneath Manhattan. Subways, water mains, forgotten sewers, and rumored vaults. Homeland Security lists portions of this subterranean grid as critical infrastructure, meaning restricted even to city engineers. Every few years, a new rumor surfaces, a chamber reopened, a sealed iron door rediscovered. But before the public can investigate, the site is quietly reinforced, the entrance entombed again. Maybe the vaults were built to protect America's wealth. Maybe they were built to protect something else entirely. In a city that never sleeps, the ground itself still keeps secrets, gold, documents, maybe even history rewritten in stone. And until someone dares to dig deep enough, the truth will remain where it's always been, beneath New York. In 1947, a small explosion rattled a construction site near Water Street. The papers called it a gas main rupture, but blueprints later revealed no such gas line existed there. The incident was erased from official city logs. What the public didn't know was that the blast happened directly above a sealed government tunnel, a forgotten corridor from the 1930s, last used by the U.S. Treasury for secure transport. Workers that day reported seeing a massive iron door under the debris, perfectly intact, until federal agents ordered it covered within hours. And then, total silence. Witnesses later described men in unmarked suits removing crates through the night. No agency ever claimed responsibility. Some say it was part of Project Gold Line, an unrecorded wartime effort to move foreign gold reserves out of Europe through the New York Vault network. Others believe the crates contained something else, classified archives smuggled from Germany after the war. By the 1950s, Cold War paranoia was reshaping every American city. Beneath Manhattan, the federal government authorized new civil defense structures. Officially, they were fallout shelters. Unofficially, they extended into areas that predated the Civil War. Declassified fragments of a 1952 Army Corps memo mention Deep Vault Facility, Manhattan Sector. Coordinates redacted. Purpose: secure archival containment, non-biological materials. For decades, no one knew what that meant, until 1998, when an urban explorer named Daniel Weiss claimed to have entered an unmarked service tunnel near Chambers Street. What he found changed everything. In a 2011 interview, Weiss described walking through a concrete shaft that led to a massive door. The sign read simply, U.S. Property, Restricted Access, Project DV-01. He never made it back there again. Within a week, the tunnel entrance was filled and bricked over. City officials called his story a fabrication. But Weiss produced photos. Low light, grainy, but unmistakable, a circular steel door, government-style stenciling, and behind it, a glimpse of metallic crates stamped Federal Reserve Transit.
Every mystery has a name that history forgot. In this one, that name was Edward Halperin, a civil engineer for the city from 1911 to 1938. Halperin's designs appear in dozens of city archives, but in 1939 he abruptly vanished. Years later, in a sealed envelope at Columbia University's library, researchers found a letter believed to be his. It read, "They are building more than tunnels. They are building memory itself, places where truth can be hidden, not lost. If I vanish, it's because I found the door no one was meant to open." Historians dismissed it as metaphor, but his handwriting matched perfectly. And then, a revelation. City blueprints from 1921, signed by Halperin, show an auxiliary corridor running directly from the sub-treasury to an unnamed storage annex. That annex does not appear on any later map. It was erased. Fast forward to 1973. A water main burst near Pine Street forced crews to dig 30 feet below the surface. They found more than pipes. Buried beneath the asphalt was a large iron hatch sealed with lead rivets. When they pried it open, a wave of stale air hissed out, and the smell of oil, paper, and ozone filled the air. Inside, a narrow stairway descending into darkness. 2 men went down. Only one came back up. He described a concrete hall lined with steel doors, each marked by letters A, B, C. In one room, he claimed, were shelves of boxes, old government seals, military files, rusted typewriters. And in the distance, the sound of machinery still running. City authorities sealed the site again within 24 hours. The surviving worker refused all interviews until his death in 2008. His final words to his son, "Don't dig below the river line. It's still alive down there." In 1989, construction began on a new skyscraper near Wall Street. During excavation, workers found something that forced immediate shutdown: an underground chamber filled with reinforced concrete pillars and bronze rails. Company documents reveal that federal officials from the Department of Energy arrived unannounced and took control of the site for safety inspection. The next morning, all records of the find were gone. A leaked memo from the same year, marked "Eyes Only," referenced transfer of archival containers from old Treasury conduit to private sector custody, secured per National Emergency Continuity Plan. Private sector custody. Which corporation? No one knows for sure, but the building above that site today is owned by one of the largest financial institutions in America, whose board once included a former Secretary of the Treasury. Coincidence? Or continuity? In 2006, an archivist at the New York Historical Society uncovered a strange blueprint misfiled among subway plans. It was dated 1919, marked "Property of the War Department." It showed a system of tunnels under Lower Manhattan connecting 4 key points: the Sub-Treasury, now the Federal Hall, the Federal Reserve Bank, the Customs House, and a final node labeled only as Vault District, Restricted. When she tried to report it, her department was suddenly audited. The document vanished from the archive within weeks. But not before a digital copy surfaced online, posted anonymously on a deep web forum titled DV01, The Door. Experts authenticated the paper, ink, and layout as genuine. The forum disappeared 3 days later. In 2017, a group of authorized MTA engineers entered a maintenance tunnel near Bowling Green to assess water damage. They found a welded door with 1930s-style bolts. One of them, a man named Ruiz, said he could feel cool air seeping from behind it, like active ventilation. When they returned with city supervisors, the door was gone, replaced by a concrete wall. Overnight. Later, Ruiz received an unmarked envelope. Inside was a single photograph, a dimly lit corridor stretching into darkness, and stenciled on the wall, DV01. The same name Weiss had seen decades earlier. He never spoke publicly again.
In 2021, independent journalist Caroline Hurst began an investigation into the Deep Vault project. Her videos drew millions of views until her channel was suddenly removed for violations of national security. Within a week, her website went offline. Freedom of Information Act requests she filed with the Department of Treasury were denied, each one citing classification under Title 50, National Defense. Before her disappearance from public life, she uploaded one final short clip. It showed grainy night vision footage of a concrete tunnel with faded writing on the wall. Section 4. Federal property. Keep out. Behind her voice, faintly, a hum of machinery could be heard. No one has seen or heard from her since. What if the vaults beneath New York were never just for gold? What if they were built as the nation's shadow memory, a physical archive of everything America wanted hidden? Foreign gold, secret treaties, unrecorded experiments, or proof of power used in silence? From the 18th century sub-treasury to the Cold War's Project DV-01, one line connects them all: secrecy. Maybe the vaults still exist. Maybe they were expanded. Maybe, even now, deep below the endless traffic, there's still a hum, the sound of machines protecting something too important or too dangerous to ever see daylight again.